Picture two brilliant minds sitting in a room talking for 13 hours straight. That's exactly what happened when Sigmund Freud first met Carl Jung in 1907. They talked and talked, barely stopping to eat or drink. But this amazing friendship would later turn into one of science's greatest rivalries, a clash that changed how we understand the human mind forever. Think of them as two detectives trying to solve the same mystery. What makes humans think, feel, and act the way they do? Both were searching for answers, but they ended up taking very different paths. Today, we're going to dive into their story, not just as scientists, but as real people whose ideas still shape how we think about ourselves. Let's start with Sigmund Freud, the older of the two. Born in 1856 to a Jewish family in what is now the Czech Republic, Freud grew up in Vienna, Austria. Picture Victorian-era Vienna, elegant buildings, horse-drawn carriages, and a society that didn't like to talk about its problems. That's where Freud started asking questions nobody wanted to ask. Freud worked with patients suffering from what people back then called hysteria. They had physical symptoms that couldn't be explained by any medical condition. Through talking to these patients, Freud made a shocking discovery. He believed that our minds hide difficult thoughts and memories in what he called the unconscious mind, like a basement where we store things we don't want to look at. Here's where it gets interesting. Freud believed that everything about who we are comes from our early childhood experiences, especially our relationship with our parents. He thought our mind was like an iceberg. The small part we can see above water is our conscious thoughts, but the massive part hidden underwater is our unconscious mind, full of hidden desires and fears. Now enter Carl Jung, born in 1875 in Switzerland. Unlike Freud's urban upbringing, Jung grew up in a rural village, surrounded by nature and local folklore. His father was a pastor, and young Carl was fascinated by both religion and science, a combination that would later put him at odds with Freud. When Jung discovered Freud's work, he was amazed. Finally, here was someone else who believed in the power of the unconscious mind. Jung was younger, energetic, and eager to learn from Freud. Freud, in turn, saw Jung as his intellectual heir, the person who would carry on his ideas after he was gone. For 6 years, they were incredibly close. They wrote letters to each other almost every day, sharing their deepest thoughts and discoveries. Freud even called Jung his crown prince and successor. But like many parent-child relationships, which, ironically, both men studied, this one was headed for trouble. The first cracks appeared when Jung started questioning some of Freud's basic ideas. Remember how Freud thought everything came down to childhood experiences and hidden desires? Jung said, wait a minute, there's more to it than that. Jung believed that our minds weren't just shaped by our personal experiences, but also by what he called the collective unconscious, a kind of mental library that all humans share, filled with universal symbols and patterns he called archetypes. Think about how cultures that never met each other often have similar myths and stories. Jung said this wasn't a coincidence. Let's break down their biggest differences with some examples. Freud believed that if you dreamed about flying, it was probably about hidden sexual desires. Jung said, hold on, maybe flying dreams tap into humanity's ancient wish to be free, to transcend our earthly limits. Same dream, completely different interpretations. Freud saw religion as an illusion people created to cope with their fears. Jung believed that religious and spiritual experiences were important expressions of the human psyche, representing our search for meaning and wholeness. Freud focused mostly on what went wrong in people's lives, their traumas, fears, and conflicts. Jung was more interested in how people could grow and become their best selves, a process he called individuation. Their methods were different, too. Freud was like a surgeon, wanting to dig out the hidden psychological wounds from the past. Jung was more like an explorer, interested in how people could use their inner worlds, including their problems, to become stronger and wiser. The final break came in 1913. Jung published a book that disagreed with some of Freud's fundamental ideas, especially about the role of sexuality in human psychology. Freud saw this as a betrayal. Their friendship ended, and the world of psychology split into two camps. But here's what's fascinating. While they became rivals, both men made incredible contributions to how we understand ourselves. Freud showed us that our unconscious minds influence our behavior in powerful ways. He developed the idea of talk therapy, the simple but revolutionary notion that talking about our problems can help heal them. Jung gave us new ways to understand ourselves and our connections to others. He showed how myths, stories, and symbols can help us make sense of our lives. His ideas influenced everything from literature and art to the Myers-Briggs personality test that millions of people take today. Their rivalry also led to something important. It showed that there isn't just one way to understand the human mind. Just like a complex novel can have many valid interpretations, human psychology can be understood from different angles. Today, most psychologists don't fully agree with either Freud or Jung. Science has shown that some of their ideas were wrong, but many of their insights have proven remarkably useful. Modern therapy often combines Freud's careful attention to past experiences with Jung's interest in personal growth and meaning. Think about it this way. Freud was like someone who invented a map of the human mind showing all the dangerous territories where we might get hurt or stuck. Jung came along and said, yes, but let me add to that map. So here are the mountains we can climb, the forests we can explore, and the treasures we might find along the way. Their story teaches us something valuable. Even brilliant people can see the same thing differently. Their rivalry pushed both men to develop their ideas further than they might have otherwise. It's like they were having a conversation that never really ended, and we're still part of it today. When you go to therapy today, you might find your therapist using both Freudian and Jungian ideas. They might help you understand how your past influences your present. That's Freud's influence, while also helping you find meaning and personal growth in your challenges. That's Jung's contribution. As we end this journey through one of psychology's greatest rivalries, remember this. Freud and Jung's disagreement wasn't just about who was right. It was about two different ways of seeing human nature. Freud saw humans as creatures struggling with inner conflicts that needed to be resolved. Jung saw humans as beings capable of tremendous growth and transformation. Maybe they were both right. Maybe understanding ourselves requires both looking at our wounds and discovering our potential. Their rivalry reminds us that the human mind is so complex that we need different perspectives to understand it fully. The next time you have a dream, feel conflicted about something, or wonder why you act the way you do, remember Freud and Jung. Their ideas, born from their friendship and shaped by their rivalry, gave us new ways to understand ourselves. And they're still helping us make sense of who we are today.